Though Perseverance took 7 months to reach the red planet, it had only 7 minutes to land on the surface of Mars. Why? Because Mars has very thin atmosphere. Atmospheric pressure on Mars is very low, less than 1% of Earth's atmospheric pressure. This means that any spacecraft in Martian atmosphere will descend very rapidly to the surface because of less atmospheric resistance. So, how NASA landed its spacecraft? The technology that NASA used is mind-blowing. Let's look at it. 10 minutes before entering the atmosphere, the spacecraft shed its cruise stage, which had solar panels, radios, and fuel tanks that the spacecraft used during its space journey to Mars. Only then, the protective aeroshell with the rover and descent stage inside made the trip to the surface. Before entering the atmosphere, the vehicle fired small thrusters on the back shell to reorient itself and make sure the heat shield is facing forward for what comes next. It is going to be a turbulent and bumpy ride through the atmosphere of Mars. Packed in a heat shield, first the rover plunged through the thin Martian atmosphere at a speed of 20,000 kilometers an hour. As the rover streaked through the atmosphere, the heat shield experienced enormous aerodynamic resistance, which not only slowed down the spacecraft but heated it up like hell, hitting a temperature of 1300 degrees Celsius, and it glowed like the surface of the sun. However, the rover is safe in the aeroshell with room temperature. During this, the spacecraft fired small thrusters to keep itself on track to guide to the landing site. The heat shield slowed the spacecraft to under 1600 kilometers an hour. Along with keeping the rover safe inside it, the heat shield also slows down the spacecraft to under 1600 kilometers per hour. But to safely land on the surface, the speed has to reduce further, which cannot be done by heat shield itself. So NASA used this amazing parachute technology to slow down the spacecraft further. When the spacecraft reached an altitude of 11 kilometers, the 70 feet wide supersonic parachute was deployed in fraction of a second and heat shield was detached. To nail the timing of this critical event, Perseverance used a new technology called range trigger to calculate its distance to the landing site and open the parachute at the ideal time to hit its mark. And Perseverance did this without any mistake. "20 seconds after the parachute deployment, the heat shield separated and dropped away. The rover was exposed to the Martian atmosphere for the first time, and key cameras and instruments were turned on, and immediately a special camera scanned the surface and compared those images to an onboard map to determine exactly where it was heading. Mission team members have mapped in advance the safest areas of the landing zone. But there are a lot of rocks in the landing site and the spacecraft can crash into those rocks. If the Perseverance is going into these rocks, its computers can tell that it's headed for more hazardous terrain and immediately it will pick the safest spot it can reach. This is NASA's new technology called terrain relative navigation. Luckily, there wasn't any problem with the rocks. And the next step was dramatic. In the thin Martian atmosphere, as there is less aerodynamic resistance, the parachute was only able to slow the vehicle to about 320 kilometers per hour. But to safely land on the surface, Perseverance must slow down to about 2.7 kilometers per hour. That is less than 1 meter per second, about human walking speed. How NASA reduced the spacecraft speed? Amazingly, NASA designed the descent stage with rockets. So the Perseverance must cut itself free of the parachute and ride the rest of the way down using rockets. And that's what happened. When the spacecraft reached 2 kilometers above the surface, the rover separated from the back shell and fired up its descent stage engines. The descent stage quickly diverted itself to avoid being impacted by the parachute and the back shell coming down behind it. The descent stage slowed down the spacecraft to about 2.7 kilometers per hour, which is the required speed to land. But how this one-ton robotic vehicle Perseverance is going to land on the ground? For this, NASA used sky crane maneuver with about 12 seconds before touchdown. At about 20 meters above the surface, the descent stage initiated the sky crane maneuver and lowered the car-sized 1-ton Perseverance rover on a set of 6-meter-long nylon cables. Meanwhile, the rover opened its legs and wheels into landing position. As soon as the rover sensed that its wheels have touched the ground, it quickly cut the cables connecting it to the descent stage. This freed the descent stage and it flew off and landed far away on the surface, a safe distance away from Perseverance rover. All these critical events in entry, descent and landing sequence must be executed autonomously without any error by the rover itself, because we cannot communicate with the rover in real time. Mars is really far from us. It takes about 11 minutes for the radio signal to arrive on Earth. So the rover must execute these steps by itself on Mars, and it did successfully. That's the greatness of NASA, and NASA created a history. NASA spent nearly 19,000 crores on Perseverance project. It was truly horrifying 7 minutes of terror for Perseverance rover on the planet Mars on 18th February 2021. Perseverance survived the 7 minutes of terror, a fiery trip through Martian atmosphere using heat shield, parachute and rockets on 18th February 2021. All went well and Perseverance touched down in one of the most interesting places on Mars, inside Jezero crater, which was once a lake filled with water with the river inflow and outflow channels. What happened to those rivers? Was there microbial life present in those waters? A key goal of the rover's mission is astrobiology. Perseverance will search for signs of ancient microbial life on Mars. Perseverance will also investigate several ancient environments that may have once been habitable. This is the route that the Perseverance is going to investigate. Perseverance will also drill into these rocks and collect rock, soil and dust samples and store them inside small tubes into it, so that future missions can bring those samples back to Earth and can be studied by scientists. Perseverance also carried a small helicopter drone named Ingenuity. It is an experiment designed to attempt the first powered controlled flight on other planet. In the next few days, NASA is going to test flight the helicopter drone on Mars. In addition, Perseverance carries a technology experiment called MOXIE that will produce oxygen from Mars' carbon dioxide atmosphere. It will demonstrate a way that future explorers might produce oxygen for rocket propellant as well as for breathing. Perseverance will be studying Mars geology and climate, which paves the way for human exploration of the red planet. Perseverance is our next great hope in search for life beyond Earth. It will help us develop technologies to make humans truly interplanetary species. But of the most important thing is, it will help us answer the most exciting and important questions for humanity. Is there life beyond Earth? Thanks for watching this video, and please do subscribe to Mind Openers and click the bell icon. I'm going to be uploading the videos of Chandrayaan-3 coverage. So India's ISRO is going to land on the moon this year. Don't miss that coverage. Please subscribe and click the bell icon. Thank you.